This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. Joining me today is from our EBC Thailand Bureau. Hello, Esther.
Hi, I'm Esther Adanga from EBC Thailand Bureau, giving you the latest news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. Thousands of Thai democracy activists rallied in Bangkok to demand the king give up control of his multi-billion-dollar fortune, turning their protest movement directly on the once untouchable monarchy's vast wealth.
Mula po sa November 27,
Philippine Social Security System President and CEO Aurora Ignacio announced that pensioners affected by previous typhoons can take the SSS Calamity Loan Package from November 27, 2020.
Ito mga nakaraang buwan.
And Thai authorities have admitted that an 11.5-ton drug bust may contain an innocent chemical used as a food additive or cleaning agent, and not ketamine as they believed.
Iglesia Ni Cristo in United Kingdom donates to local food banks.
First, the Philippine Social Security System President and CEO Aurora Ignacio announced that pensioners affected by the previous typhoons can take the SSS Calamity Loan Package from November 27 this year. Take a look.
Mula po sa November 27, pwede na po kami mag-release ng Calamity Loan Package para po sa mga affected members po ng Calamity ng Ulysses, Rolly, and Quinta. Yun po mga bagyo na dumating sa atin itong mga nakaraang buwan. At ang Calamity Loan Assistance Package Program na po ito ay kasama po ang Calamity Loan Assistance, yung loan. Pwede po silang humingi ng 3 months advance pension para doon sa mga SSS pensioners ng SSS at saka EC pensioners. At pwede rin po silang umutang para sa direct house repair, para sa kanilang nasalantang bahay. Ang pwede pong mag-avail ng package na ito, ng Loan Assistance Program, ayun pong merong 36 monthly contributions, 36 months monthly contributions, na kung saan po yung 6 na buwan ay naibayad po sa pinakahuling 6 na buwan, at meron po silang walang miss nitong last 6 months. Ang pwede po nilang mautang dun sa loan package na ito, ayun po kanilang katumbas ng isang buwan na monthly salary credit na base po sa huling 12 monthly salary credit nila. I-round off na dyan natin ito sa nearest 1,000. At ito po ay payable in 2 years. Ang mga kwalipikado naman po na mag-avail ng loan, ayun pong mga residente na members natin na residente ng calamity area na dineclare ng NDRRMC to be under state of calamity dun sa 3 bagyo na po na yon. Sila po ay dapat registered sa SSS website natin at kailangan po ay hindi pa sila nabibigyan ng final benefit na kagaya ng permanent total disability or retirement package. At ang isa pong requirement pa ay wala sila dapat na outstanding restructured loan or any other calamity loan. So, yun po ang para sa loan. Yun naman pong SSS pensioners ay pwede humingi para lang po makatulong sa kanilang immediate na pangangailangan ng 3 buwan na advance pension.
The Manila Electric Corporation, or Meralco, said it has fully restored electricity in its franchise areas after the onslaught of Typhoon Ulysses. As Ulysses hit a big portion of Luzon on November 12, over 3.8 million Meralco customers in Metro Manila, Central Luzon, and Calabarzon comprises of Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, Rizal, and Quezon experienced power outages. The Department of Energy, along with Meralco, also asked for patience of affected customers as full power restoration takes place, particularly in areas submerged in floods. The safety of linemen was also considered at those times. For customers or households that may still be experiencing intermittent power service, they can contact us at 16211 or our official Facebook and Twitter accounts, Meralco said.
The Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or DABFAR, has assured stable supply of fish until year-end despite the series of typhoons that hit the fisheries sector. DA Undersecretary for Agri-Industrialization and for Fisheries, Cheryl Caballero, in a virtual presser, said that fish inventory is projected at 87,539 metric tons, which means there is substantial availability of supply within 10 days. For 2020, she said fish supply was estimated at 3.42 million tons against demand for 3.33 million tons. In a message on Wednesday, DA spokesperson Noel Reyes said the Calamity has incurred 4,552.26 metric tons of losses in the fisheries sector.
In Thailand, thousands of Thai democracy activists rally in Bangkok to demand the king give up control of his multi-billion-dollar fortune, turning their protest movement directly on the once untouchable monarchy's vast wealth.
สามารถตรวจสอบได้อะค่ะหรือว่าสามารถพิจารณาได้ว่าอันไหนควรอันไหนไม่ควรหรืออะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะเพราะว่าตอนนี้คือตัวงบประมาณนะคะที่ให้กับสถาบันเอาไปใช้เนี่ยมันเยอะมากๆแล้วก็ไม่สามารถตรวจสอบได้ว่าเขาเอาไปใช้อะไรบ้างหรือว่าเหมาะสมแค่ไหนอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะคิดว่าสังคมไทยครับตอนนี้มีการเหลื่อมล้ำสูงมากถ้าเกิดเรานำงบหรือเงินในส่วนนั้นมาพัฒนาประเทศให้คนมีสิทธิ์และศักดิ์ศรีเท่าเทียมกันมันจะดีกว่าเพราะว่าเงินส่วนนั้นกลับเหมือนไปพัฒนาให้แก่คนกลุ่มเดียวคนอีกหลายๆคนยังจนอยู่เลยยังไม่มีกินเลยที่สำคัญคือเงินทุนในการก่อตั้งธนาคารไทยพาณิชย์ธนาคารกรุงเทพธนาคารกสิกรไทยสามารถนำไปทำให้เกิดการฟื้นฟูและ
took to the streets near headquarters of Siam Commercial Bank, or SCB, to protest at the secrecy surrounding King Maha Vajiralongkorn's financial arrangements. The demonstration came after police summoned 12 protest leaders for questioning over royal defamation allegations, the first use of Thailand's draconian lese majesty law in nearly 3 years. Thailand has for months been rocked by youth-led protests demanding a new constitution, reform of untouchable monarchy, and for Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha to resign. Many protesters on Wednesday sported yellow dots on t-shirts, hats, and helmets after demonstrators used larger inflatable versions last week to defend themselves against police water cannon and tear gas. As of November 25, 2020 at 12 p.m., the Ministry of Health has confirmed and verified there are new cases of locally transmitted COVID-19 infection. There are 7 imported cases who had already been placed on stay-home notice upon arrival in Singapore. All new cases today are asymptomatic and were detected from proactive screening and surveillance. Overall, the number of new cases in the community has remained low, with no new cases in past week. Among 7 imported cases, 1 is a Singapore permanent resident and another is a student's pass holder who both arrived from India. Another 4 cases are work permit holders currently employed in Singapore who arrived from India Indonesia, and the Philippines. The remaining case is a short-term visit pass holders who arrived from Ukraine to board a ship deck here as a crew member. They had also been placed in SHN upon arrival in Singapore and were tested while serving SHN. 12 more cases of COVID-19 infection had been discharged from hospitals or community isolation facilities. In all, 58,091 have fully recovered from infection and have been discharged from hospitals or community care facilities. In the Philippines, the city government of Manila would strictly implement health protocols among consumers who would troop to different markets in the city for the holiday season. Manila Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Domagoso ordered the Manila Police District or MPD on Wednesday to enforce the minimum public health safety protocols in big markets in the city, specifically Divisoria, Quiapo, and Blumentritt. MPD Special Mayor's Reaction Team or SMART Chief Major Rosalino P. Ibay Jr. immediately conducted a meeting with the Manila Barangay Bureau or MBB and the Manila Traffic and Parking Bureau MTPB. The meeting was also attended by precinct commanders and chiefs of villages in the Divisoria area. Ibay specifically ordered the implementation of one entrance, one exit policy in the said markets. Meanwhile, MBB Director Romeo Bagay ordered village chiefs to designate officials that will help maintain peace and order and remind the public to wear their face masks and face shields and observe safe physical distancing at all times. Likewise, MTPB would be in charge of maintaining the cleanliness and ensuring that roads are free from any obstructions. Divisoria is among the most popular shopping destinations in the country, especially during the holiday season.
Indonesia's President Joko Widodo has said the current public health and economic crisis are an opportunity for Indonesia to push the reset button and make a quantum leap through big vision, big transformation, and big actions. According to Antara News Agency, Indonesia has been making favorable progress in handling the public health and economic crisis caused by the ongoing global pandemic, he said at the World Economic Forum special virtual meeting on Indonesia on Wednesday. Joining the meeting via video conferencing from the Bogor Presidential Palace, he also said Indonesia has made better progress in COVID-19 handling as seen in both infection and recovery rates. The percentage of Indonesia's active cases has been recorded at 12.68%, which is lower than the world's average rate of 27.9%. Indonesia's recovery rate has also shown a good trend, reaching 84.09% or above the world's average rate of 69.61%, according to the president, adding that Indonesia has been trying to reduce the COVID-19 mortality rate as well. Regarding the country's preparations for its mass vaccination program, President Jokowi said Indonesia is collaborating with various parties to meet its demand for COVID-19 vaccines. Besides working with several global pharmaceutical companies, Indonesia is also working on accelerating its domestic production of COVID-19 vaccines.
Scientists in Cambodia and Japan have found coronaviruses in bats related to SARS-CoV-2. The virus in Cambodia was discovered in two chamois horseshoe bats captured in northern Cambodia in 2010. The virus genome has not been sequenced completely, and its impact on knowledge about SARS-CoV-2 is yet to be determined, according to the Nature Science. So far, the team has sequenced about 70% of the genome, but critical genes still need to be analyzed. Whether the virus found in Cambodia can infect human cells remains a mystery. Uncovering a new coronaviruses in horseshoe bats can provide hints about how SARS-CoV-2 made to leave humans, as well as help us anticipate future pandemics. This is the first time that close relatives of the novel coronavirus have been found outside China.
Bernama reports that the number of flood victims continues to increase in Terengganu, Malaysia. As of writing, 530 people from 131 families are at 20 relief centers at 8 a.m. compared to 473 people at 8 p.m. yesterday. Head of the State Disaster Management Committee, Secretariat Lieutenant Colonel Che Adam Ranan said 3 more PPs were opened last night, bringing the total to 20 to accommodate the increase in evacuees. The Energy Commission, meanwhile, has reminded the public, especially those living in low-lying and flood-prone areas, to take precautionary measures to avoid any electrical hazards. The Commission, in a statement, said before floods hit, the public must switch off the main electrical distribution board and disconnect all appliances from their sockets. The Malaysia Meteorological Department, or Met Malaysia, has issued an orange weather warning with continuous heavy rain in 3 states in the east coast of the peninsula until Friday.
Going back in Thailand, Thai authorities have admitted that an 11.5-ton drug bust may contain an innocent chemical used as a food additive or cleaning agent, and not ketamine as they believed. Thailand's Anti-Narcotics Bureau last week hailed the seizure of what they said was nearly $1 billion worth of ketamine, an aesthetic that can also be used as a party drug. But tests on 66 of 450 sacks of white powder seized in a warehouse near Bangkok revealed it be trisodium phosphate, a compound with various industrial uses. After announcing the haul last week, great fanfare, Thai officials were forced to hold a news conference on Tuesday to explain the error. Justice Minister Somsak Thepsutin said that when the test for ketamine is applied to trisodium phosphate, it can produce a false positive result. Forensic scientists are carrying out tests to see what the remaining sacks contain. The kingdom is a major transit route for drug trafficking, particularly methamphetamines and heroin, from the so-called Golden Triangle of northern Thailand, Laos, China, and Myanmar.
According to the online newspaper of the Vietnam's government, the 43rd meeting of the Vietnam-Laos Intergovernmental Committee is scheduled to take place in Hanoi in early December. As both countries are now preparing for their national party congresses next year and drafting new socio-economic development strategies for the next decade, the meeting is expected to provide a platform for the two sides to chart new orientation for bilateral cooperation in order to advance the ties in an effective and practical manner. On the occasion, both sides are expected to sign a strategy for economic, cultural, educational, scientific, and technological cooperation for the period 2021 to 2023 and an agreement on bilateral cooperation in the period 2021 to 25.
Staying in Vietnam, Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc on Wednesday hosted a reception for a multinational business delegation led by former German Vice Chancellor Philipp Rösler. The delegation, comprising of investors from Germany, Israel, Switzerland, is on a visit to Vietnam to explore investment opportunities in Southeast Asian country. Rösler, who was elected as chairman of Fina Capital Ventures Advisory Board last year, congratulated Vietnam on successful management of the COVID-19 pandemic, thanks to the tireless efforts of the government and people, becoming a role model for many other countries. He said the business delegation has initially decided to invest $350 million in Vietnam's priority areas like tourism, digital startup, and manufacturing of personal medical equipment. The delegation spoke highly of Vietnam's business environment, expressing their wish to foster investment cooperation with the country. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Phuc said Vietnam continues luring foreign direct investment projects in high technology, innovation, support industries, and human resource development. Welcoming the delegation's aforesaid investment decision, Phuc pledged to protect legitimate rights and interests of foreign investors in the country. So far, Vietnam has attracted more than 33,000 FDI projects from 139 countries and territories with total registered capital of $383.
New Zealand, one of the 12 founding members of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, plans to steer APEC's efforts towards recovery in a time of unprecedented health and economic crisis as the grouping's host in 2021. New Zealand has taken over the leadership of APEC from Malaysia, the host of APEC 2020, as noted in a written statement issued by the APEC Secretariat and received here Wednesday. The host year will be completely held online, as announced in June this year, demonstrating New Zealand's leadership in digital diplomacy amidst the pandemic, according to the statement. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who will chair the 2021 APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, acknowledged the extraordinary scale of the challenges the world faces and stressed the need for member economies to work together for the greater good. She said that New Zealand will create an environment where connections can be made and APEC's important work can continue, including progress on sustainability, widespread adoption of digital tools to drive productivity, and development of inclusive plans to create opportunities for all people. New Zealand will begin its host year with a symposium and the informal senior officials meeting in December 2020, followed by the first formal gatherings of senior officials early next year.
Indonesia's national flag carrier, Garuda Indonesia, was rated among the safest airlines worldwide in terms of implementing health protocols during COVID-19 pandemic. According to Antara News Agency, the rating was given by Safe Travel Barometer, an independent audit agency that assessed the implementation of COVID-19 health protocols in global travel, tourism, and hospitality industry. This achievement holds significance for the continuance and our consistency in implementing health protocols optimally in all lines of flight operations to ensure that efforts to prevent COVID-19 transmission during flights have run maximally. Garuda Indonesia President Director Irfan Setyaputra noted in a statement here on Saturday. According to the audit, Garuda Indonesia is only Indonesian airlines listed among the 20 safest airlines globally. The ranking was based on a comprehensive assessment of the standard of implementation of health protocols and flight safety, wherein Garuda obtained a safe travel score of 4 out of 5 among over 230 airlines evaluated worldwide. Emirates topped the ranking with a safe travel score of 4.4.
The U.S. Secretary of the Air Force, Barbara Barrett, on Wednesday met with the Department of National Defense Undersecretary Cardozo Luna and senior Philippine military officials to reaffirm the U.S. steadfast military partnership with the Philippines, the oldest U.S. treaty ally in Asia. While in Manila, Barrett also met with Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief of Staff General Gilbert Gapay and Philippine Air Force Commander Lieutenant General Alan Paredes. Now, Barrett underscored the importance of the U.S.-Philippine alliance to national and regional security and discussed opportunities for greater bilateral security cooperation. She also highlighted U.S. COVID-19 related assistance and disaster relief for recent typhoon victims, as well as ongoing U.S. support for Philippine counterterrorism and maritime security efforts. National Defense Undersecretary Cardozo Luna welcomed the visit of the U.S. Secretary of the Air Force in the Philippines, and he said they look forward to working with our U.S. counterparts in pursuit of common goals and interests. Barrett's visit coincides with a handover to the Philippine Navy of a Scan Eagle unmanned aerial system, a 710 million peso drone that will boost the Philippine military's intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capabilities, strengthening maritime domain awareness and border security. The Secretary's trip follows U.S. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien's November 22 to the 23rd visit, during which he announced 868 million pesos worth of additional military equipment and training for the AFP, as well as an additional 169 million pesos in U.S. humanitarian assistance to typhoon-affected communities.
Staying in the Philippines, a senior trade official said Wednesday that the Japanese manufacturer of polymerase chain reaction or PCR test equipment will be investing in the country before the year ends. Department of Trade and Industry or DTI Undersecretary Ferino Rodolfo told the Philippine news agency that the activities of Japanese investors will involve producing polymerase or PCR test kits and assembling PCR machines amid the coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19. Rodolfo said that the Japanese firm is one of the foreign manufacturers of COVID-19 related products that aims to put up their facilities here. He declined to name Japanese company as well as the investment value, but it will register its project with the Philippine Economic Zone Authority or PEZA, an attached investment promotion agency of DTI. He said the company considered to move to the Philippines not to implement an export plan on products critical for mitigating COVID-19 infection, like medical-grade face masks, despite the country having only one face mask maker at onset of the pandemic.
Both government officials and representatives of Luzon's expressways assured that they're ready for the full implementation of cashless toll payments beginning of December 1st. In a virtual presser on Wednesday, Toll Regulatory Board Executive Director Abraham Sales said the operators of the country's expressways have given away a total of about 3.2 million radio frequency identification stickers or RFID to motorists, while almost 800 toll gates are ready for RFID use. Meanwhile, Romulo Kimbo Jr., Chief Communication Officer of the Metro Pacific Tollways Corporation, said about 66.4% of motorists who pass through MPTC Easy Trip expressways have used RFIDs as of November 17 compared to 31.9% in July this year. As of Monday, he said the MPTC has installed a total of 1,523,991 Easy Trip RFID stickers, noting that almost 1 million stickers were installed since August 13, the day the Department of Transportation released its Department Order 2020-12 that required mandatory cashless transactions in all tollways. OTR Assistant Secretary Goddess Hope Libiran said motorists who fail to have a sticker installed in their vehicle beyond the December 1 deadline will be able to do so in all toll lanes at all times from December 1 to January 11.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eager news, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back to ASEAN in Focus. The United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, the Quang Nam Provincial People's Committee, or PPC, and the Tua Tien Hu People's Committee on November 25 hosted an event to mark the completion of the USAID Green Animites project. Over the past 4 years, the USAID Green Animites project invested $23.9 million to support the provinces of Tua Tien Hu and Quang Nam to protect the region's globally significant biodiversity and help local and ethnic minority communities to diversify and improve their livelihoods. The USAID trained 15,254 people on sustainable landscapes and 9,669 people on natural resource management and biodiversity conservation, supported the improved natural resource management of 512,000 hectares of biological significant land areas, contributed to 13,387 people receiving livelihood co-benefits and 15,321 people receiving increased economic benefits from improved natural resource management and biodiversity conversion. As much as $59.4 million in external investment were mobilized for value chain development, women's economic empowerment, medicinal plants and handicrafts protection, and forest restoration activities.
An Earth observation satellite developed by European and U.S. space agencies set to lift off Saturday will measure sea level rise, tracking changes threatening to disrupt tens of millions of lives within a generation. If all goes according to plan, the payload will be hoisted into a low Earth 1,300-kilometer orbit by a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket with liftoff from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California at 17:17 GMT. Sentinel 6A will be the first of two identical satellites, the second to be launched in 5 years, that will provide measurements of unprecedented precision until at least 2030. Each Sentinel 6 probe carries a radar altimeter, which measures the time it takes for radar pulses to travel to Earth's surface and back again. The satellites will circle the planet in the same orbit as earlier missions that supplied sea surface height data over the last 3 decades, mapping 95% of Earth's ice-free ocean every 10 days. China, Bangladesh, India, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Thailand are home to the greatest number of people who today live on land that could be threatened by permanent inundation by 2100.
The Church of Christ in United Kingdom donates to local food banks. Ashley Espiritu reports.
The Aid to Humanity is being conducted simultaneously by the Church of Christ all around the world. Here in the United Kingdom, members of the Church of Christ gathered in 4 different sites. Let's see how it went.
The event today is for local food banks who are giving out food to people in crisis to come and pick up and receive some food donations from your wonderful church.
Our food bank would see between 50 and 60 people. We are now seeing 120 and the numbers are rising. So your donation is going to help us reach more people and will ensure that the families and single people out there, we have vulnerable old people, they are all going to leave our food bank with a big smile on their face.
I think they just generally so overwhelmed and bowled over. You can't explain just the generosity that's been happening over these last few months. And, people have got just very kind, generous hearts, and they are just giving very sacrificially themselves. And it is just amazing to see just how God is opening the hearts of many to give generously.
I think your gesture is phenomenal. I had actually been telling the staff about you coming today during the week. I'd been telling them, and I was just saying, I wish our own church would do something like this. It would be great. I think it's very, very good of your church to do it.
It's so important. It's food banks have traditionally always relied on donations from local people, and I think when the pandemic first hit, people were just so scared, so we didn't have any food donations. We've had to purchase food for the last however many months. So just being able to start getting donations back is what the food banks are all about. We can't survive without donations.
Reporting to you from London, United Kingdom, I'm Ashley Espiritu, and we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Esther, for joining me today, and I apologize for the delay.
It's okay, Alma. Thank you, Alma. And that's the latest news around ASEAN. Thank you for watching. From EBC Thailand Bureau, I'm Esther Adanga, and we live in interesting times.
And I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.